If you're an artist, you know that one of the most amazing feelings is creating a piece that exceeds your expectations and that brings your vision to life. And arguably so, you know that one of the most discouraging feelings is creating a piece that doesn't meet your expectations and that didn't bring your vision to life and that you're disappointed in. Hey, I'm Sid. I go by The Blind Artisan and I'm a digital artist, and a couple months ago I started a series on here called My Creative Workflow where I pretty much shared my process of painting in Procreate, with my Gemini piece being an example. And if you've been following me for the last couple months, you know that I owe you a video, and that video is a how I render video. And you may be wondering what happened, and well, long story short, things just didn't go as I expected them to. You might be wondering why I even want to share this journey with you. Well, essentially, I just hope that you can take something away from it. I hope that my experiences can serve as maybe a learning lesson on how to approach your creative journey and how to approach failure and making pieces that you don't like, and what I did in the hopes that maybe it will change your perspective on failure and perhaps change the way that you approach your own creative journey and the way that you view it. Here's what happened. So in my previous video, I was in the process of picking the perfect colors, and I was so happy with the colors that we came up with together, and it was just awesome. I was feeling so fulfilled. I had a sketch that I liked, I had a color palette that I liked, and I was ready to just bring my vision to life. So I eagerly sat down at my desk with my iPad, my Apple Pencil, and a cozy drink, and I got to painting. All right, so we are in Procreate, and this is what I have so far with the flat colors and the sketch. And I'm gonna click on this layer tab up here on the top right hand. And as you can see, these are all my layers. I pretty much label each one except for the reference color study and my sketching layers on top, my line art layers. But everything underneath is labeled. And so I think I am going to start off with the skin, and I'm going to alpha lock it. And to alpha lock it, you click on that layer. So I clicked on the skin layer, and you're gonna see a tab that says alpha lock. And essentially what alpha lock does is it allows you to color your entire layer without going outside the lines or outside of what you initially colored. So let me give you an example. I will go to your skin here, and let's say I just start going. See how it doesn't go outside the lines here? So yeah, it's really helpful because then you don't have to worry about being super neat, and it's one of the perks of drawing digitally. I wanted to also mention that I have my mood board, which we created together in the first video, which has all of my references or ideas for Gemini. So I have this to refer to, and I also have another mood board that I really like to refer to. This is called Art Inspo 2024, and it's just different artsy things that I find really inspiring. As far as my Gemini mood board, I am going to mostly be referencing the reference photo that I found on there, just so I can get the position correct. I might look at how the shadows and the lights are coming off of their skin, but yeah, really I'm gonna be winging it, so I was super excited to have you along with me. And as time went by, I got more and more discouraged until sooner than I knew it, I was at the finish line and I did not like the piece that I painted. And I felt so discouraged. I felt like I was not a good artist, and I was wondering, am I even a good artist? Should I even be an artist? Should I even be teaching? Is this even worth it? Should I just stop doing my Zodiac series altogether? Because mind you, this was my third time trying to do a Gemini piece, and honestly, this was my third and best attempt at it. So as a result to that, I went ghost. And you may be wondering, well, is that it? That can't be the end of the story. And you're so right, my friend, it isn't the end of the story. So after taking a step away from that piece and crying a little bit, I decided that I was going to do a paint over. So I have a confession to make. I ended up starting over. I started over because I wasn't really enjoying how it was coming out. I felt like the rendering process just wasn't going the way that I envisioned it to, and sometimes things like this happen. Sometimes you need to start over. Sometimes you just have to treat your project as its own learning experience. So I decided to do a paint over, and
I'm pretty happy with where I am at now. There's a lot of things I learned about like rendering and how much depth I want, and I noticed that something that I do when I'm not happy with a piece sometimes is I overcompensate with a lot of detail. So being mindful of that was really key for me. And yeah, I see this as a sign of encouragement that like it's okay for your artistic process to not be linear, no matter how much you plan for it. It happens, and it's a journey. And I think there's so much beauty in the journey and in the process.
I was going to be my own teacher, and I was going to learn from this experience because I believe that it was a valuable experience. And so I decided I was going to do a paint over. And if you don't know, a paint over is when you either bring a finished piece into a canvas or you duplicate the canvas, and essentially you paint on top of it in a different layers in a hopes of maybe testing out a composition, or in my case, seeing if I can fix what I do not like about a piece. So that's what I did. But before I started painting, I decided that I was going to evaluate what was and was not working for this piece. And off the bat, I knew exactly where I feel like I went wrong. First, I didn't really like the color palette. It's so funny because together we picked the colors, and initially I really liked them, but what I liked about them was that they were so saturated and so juicy and so good, okay? I felt like they embodied this contrast of cool and warm, but when I looked at the piece that I finished, they looked muted, and I didn't like that. And so I put that on my checklist, okay? The colors look muted, so I need to figure out a way to make these colors more juicy, more saturated, and more like my color study. I think the reason why I was able to achieve saturated color in the paint over versus the actual original painting was because I started mixing my saturated colors with saturated colors. And a rule of thumb that I've learned is that saturated color plus saturated color equals saturated color. But saturated color plus muted color will make your colors more muddy. And if that's not the look that you're going for, it's not gonna be a great look. Something else to keep in mind is that mixing colors that are further away from each other on the color wheel can lead to a muddy result. So it's easier to actually mix colors that are closer to each other to gradually get to that other color that you want, instead of just immediately mixing that color that you're looking at. Number two, there was too much detail. Don't get me wrong, I am a detail-oriented person. I love detail. It's probably one of my most favorite parts of creating because you can just add so many sentimental touches into a piece, and then whenever a viewer looks at it, they will see something new. But the issue with my form of detailing in this piece was that I was detailing because I was overwhelmed. I was overcompensating because something wasn't right in the piece and I didn't want to admit it. And I felt like maybe detailing would fix the problem, and it didn't. Unfortunately, it feels like it added to the problem. So I added that to my list. The way that I approached having too much detail in my piece during this paint over was actually refraining from doing as much detail and holding back whenever I had the urge to do the most, because simplicity can go a really long way. Finally, and this was a little bit minor compared to everything else, but I did not like how some of the fabric fell or fit the body. I wanted the pants and the figure to be a little bit more baggy, you know, more 90s style. So cute, right? I wanted to be that instead of more as flat as it was. And so I just wanted to make a few adjustments to the clothing so that it could fit the two figures a little bit better. The way that I decided to rework the fabric was I actually worked in bigger shapes, and you probably saw this earlier in the time lapse, but I decided to work in bigger shapes and then add detail later. That way I could get the shape that I wanted for the clothing and get the ideal feel and flow that I wanted for this clothing. And I feel like I achieved it, or at least I achieved my vision, so yay. So with these corrections, I was able to kind of reel back in my intentions and approach this paint over with more positivity and with more clarity. Now, I must admit that I am not finished with this piece. However, I feel way more optimistic about how it looks right now compared to how it looked when I finished it the first time. And that is something that I am so proud of. And so I just really want to share my takeaways with you from this experience in the hopes that maybe it will help you look at your creative journey through a different lens, and maybe a more positive lens if you don't already. So here are my takeaways. Number 1, be your own teacher. Whether it is from a piece that you are looking at right now that you are currently working on, or an old piece, consider redrawing a piece, or learning from your mistakes, or learning from your habits and seeing what you like and do not like and applying them. Consider doing a paint over from one of your old pieces as a little exercise. That might be kind of fun to see, number 1, how much you've grown as an artist, and number 2, what you can learn just from yourself. Number 2, making bad art is okay. It is necessary. It is necessary for making amazing, spectacular, out of this world art. It is necessary because, again, you get to be your own teacher. You get to learn from yourself, and you get to basically just keep growing. And the truth is, you have to experience those things to become a better artist, and that's okay. To be honest, I think we don't share it enough as artists because we always show our best works, but we all create that art, and that is okay. I also want to let you know the fact that just because you think it's bad doesn't mean it doesn't resonate with somebody. Doesn't mean that doesn't connect with somebody out there. So just because you do not like it doesn't mean it doesn't deserve a space in this world. Doesn't mean that it's not valuable, because it's either valuable from you learning from it, someone else is maybe taking something from it. So don't be so hard on yourself, and just remember that it's all a journey, and the beauty is within the journey, not just within the results and the beautiful art that you create. Number 3, and this is something I feel like I've told you guys, but I didn't listen to myself, and that is to start every piece with your intentions in mind and hang on to those intentions, not just through the planning phase, not just through picking your colors, but through the entire piece. And don't be afraid to step back and make sure that your piece is falling in line with your intentions. I feel like I knew in the beginning that I wanted this piece to be saturated, that I wanted this piece to represent Gemini, that I wanted this piece to just be like balanced but unbalanced at the same time. But somehow I feel like I missed the mark just because I got lost in the sauce while I was creating. And so for me, I know that I didn't take enough breaks to actually like step back and look at my piece and evaluate and reassess my intentions for this piece. And so I want to remind you that that is so important, because when you have a goal in mind, you are again reaffirming that roadmap, and you always have something to sort of lean on. Otherwise, it can feel like you're creating blindly, or at least from my experience, it can. Next is good art just takes time. I think we live in a society where we feel pressured to create art super fast. Remember, the old masters, they would spend years on a piece. So many years. And this didn't just include working on the final piece. This included doing a whole bunch of smaller studies of what is soon to be the big piece. And so I think, and this is me talking to myself as well, we shouldn't be ashamed of taking our time on our art just because social media pushes us to be fast. We are artists, and we're so cool, and we're independent, and we are our own people, and so we can do whatever we want. We can accommodate ourselves however we want to, and if that means taking more time on a piece to make it the best that it can be, then I am an advocate for that. And that is something that I'm starting to do more of, because I think that enjoying the journey, embracing that journey, no matter how long it is, will make you appreciate that piece so much more than just rushing it in order to get something beautiful out. Finally, my final takeaway is that art is supposed to be fun. Sometimes I take myself way too seriously, and I think it's because it's my career, and I want to continue to prove myself and to prove you guys that I can bring something to the table and that I can create good art. But it's not all about being a good artist. To be an artist is to express yourself. It is to experiment. It is to embrace creativity, and that in itself is a beautiful thing. It's not all about our ego. And this is, again, I think most of this is just me speaking to myself, but if you resonate with this, let me know. But it's all about just embracing who you are. And if something cool looking comes out of it that other people like, that is cool. But honestly, if you learn something from it, if you feel you expressed yourself and you let something out from it, then that is beautiful too. And I think, like, we should put more emphasis on that in the art community. I really do, because I think, like, we all decided to become artists because we loved creating when we were either kids or we picked it up later on and it was therapeutic. But I think when we get to taking ourselves too seriously, that feeling, it goes away. And so I encourage you to approach everything that you do that is creative or anything in life. Try to make it fun, especially art. Remember that it's supposed to be fun. Remember that the way that you view the world is unique and beautiful, and it doesn't have to be like anybody else's. Just have fun expressing yourself, because that fun, that enjoyment, that passion will show through. I promise it will. As someone who appreciates art and who is an artist, it does. I really hope that me sharing my creative journey with you and sharing my thoughts, my insight, and my experience with this matter really helps you approach your creative journey with grace and love and passion and fun. I hope you learn to not take yourself too seriously, but that is okay to be your own teacher. It is okay to start over. It's okay to take breaks. It's okay to embrace the journey and take your time. I hope you realize that there is something so beautiful about the fact that you're able to create something completely out of nothing. That is magic. That you're able to create something from your beautiful mind. I hope you learned that, it is okay to quote unquote fail, because by failing, by making mistakes, by creating art you don't like, it makes room for you to create beautiful, remarkable, breathtaking art that you are so proud of. Most of all, I hope that you know that your good art and your bad art don't define you as an artist. You define you as an artist. The fact that you create makes you an amazing artist. The fact that you embrace who you are makes you an amazing artist. The fact that you make room for you to be yourself, that makes you an amazing artist. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little video. I know that I got a little bit passionate here, but it's just because I really, really care, and I know what it's like to be really hard on ourselves, and we don't deserve that. So I hope that you approach your creative journey with a little bit more love, with a little bit more kindness, and that you treat yourself with so much kindness. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye.